vivid, void below, turning at the edge, no return, whispering shadows calling me, tempting voices.
Sinking Into Filth is the fourth full-length album from Heron, Germany-based death metal band Reckless Manslaughter. These folks have been around since the late 2000s, 2008 or so, and they started out playing a form of death grind. Essentially, it was brutal death metal and grindcore kind of mixed together in a frantic and aggressive way. They had a very sharp, really interesting sound on their first demo tape, and they kind of continued to expand upon it until it kind of lost its broken, crusty exterior and became more of a professional death metal band by the third album or so. I gave a short review of the third album. I felt like they kind of whitewashed some of their general interest away, but they traded off for like an effective death metal record in an old school style. If you're a fan of Bolt Thrower, but you also loved like the first two Cryptopsy records, you'd appreciate how that matches up in kind of immolation-esque way on those second and third albums. So going forward, it's been several years, and they've got this new record, and it's hard to avoid the fact that there's like a little bit of Cryptopsy in their sound. There is kind of a brutal death metal undercurrent to a lot of what they do, but you can tell they're very much into immolation, Bolt Thrower, Sinister, and or at least that's how their music expresses. So we'll get to an example of that right now with a clip, and then I'll kind of talk more about how this record generally plays out. So if that wasn't enough references to kind of group into a review of a band, there's also like a little bit of incantation in there. There's a little bit of that creeping Finnish death metal touch to it. There's a little bit of death doom on this record. It kind of surprised me because by the end of the record, we're in a completely different place. You know, they have kind of a signature from the drummer where he kind of rattles out the snare again, like one of Blasphemy Made Flesh kind of record, and it seems like it's going to be an exciting, brutal, immolation-esque like record, and eventually they go kind of death doom towards the end, finding slower points of interest. It's interesting. The verve of the general record goes from high energy to lower energy and doesn't lose the plot. It feels like it's all pretty naturally oozing downhill as we go through it, and the record just has riff after riff firing off the whole time. There's never a point where I was like, well, that riff's boring, or the vocal's not cutting it. You know, all of it really hits throughout the whole thing, and I felt like it was an exciting enough record to where the standard of it was strong, the dynamic of it was strong. And so if you're looking for this, like, where can old school death metal go at this point, it's not so much how much ground it covers anymore, but rather they can write songs that are dynamic and do represent quite a variety of taste, but still present something that's personal and memorable, and you know, it sounds like death metal. It's aggressive and all that, and I think this band particularly hits all of those notes. They've done a really good job with just putting together this record. You know, the album art is pretty fantastic, and the production values are pretty strong but personalized, and so it feels like an organic and authentic death metal record with a lot of years built interest into it. It's probably the best record from Reckless Manslaughter to date, and for that reason I give it a high recommendation. I think this is totally worth your time for October. One of the better death metal records of October, and one that has a surprising amount of personality to it that is worth checking out. So check it out for yourself. It releases on October 21st in a couple of days, and read my review.
Void vivid, void below, turning